Good evening, everybody, and welcome in to City Central Postgame right here on STL Sports Central. That was a rough one. I'm Matthew Rocchio. That's Will Bratton. We're brought to you by our friends at DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. And, of course, Hot Shots Sports Bar and Grill. All the games, all the time, including ones that aren't that fun to watch. Although they will be as long as you're at Hot Shots because the food, the drinks, the service is perfect. And I wish I would have been at Hot Shots tonight, but we're here at Energizer Park after a stinker for STL City SC. They go down 2-0 early in the 9th minute, and their comeback falls short. They lose 4-2. Will, your thoughts on that one?
That's a tough one. I mean, there's no way to sugarcoat anything about the start of that match. You can't go down 0-3 at home in the first 20 minutes of any match. I don't care the circumstance. I don't care how bad you're injured. I don't care if your whole bench is starting. That wasn't even the case. You still can't have that happen, and it happened. So the number one takeaway, the overarching theme for me is that can't happen. But there was a little fight in that team, and they came back a little bit and tried to make something happen there. So I respect that, but it wasn't good enough. Not a good performance, an abysmal performance. The worst 25-ish minutes, in my opinion, in club history. One of the worst goals ever conceded in the history of this club, also with the giveaway. So just inexcusable, a match that can't happen. But I'm not going to act like there weren't some good moments that you can build on, but that's not a redeeming quality at this point in the season when you need to be pushing towards the playoffs. Right now, taking some good things forward means we're throwing in the towel and looking at 2026, which is going to make Rock smile because that's what he wants me to say all along. And we're getting closer to that point.
If we're just being honest about what the reality of this team is, yeah, I want to keep looking forward. And that's why Roman Berkey's postgame was depressing because he's saying I could have done better when he was obviously the best City player out on the field tonight. You know, he's saying we just got to keep, taking away positives from every game no matter what. And it's like, man, that was a rough game. And the team played a rough game, and the first 9 minutes were bad, but we can't sugarcoat the rest of the other things that happened. One of the main things being they didn't register any XG from the 45th minute to the 76th minute. The offense was completely just silent for the first 30 minutes of the second half. When it's a 3-2 game, when everyone's supposedly fighting, the fight didn't do anything on the offensive end, and that's problematic going forward. To that point, eggplant emoji. The only way for this team to ever win another match is to fall into a 2-goal lead at the 75th minute. Otherwise, it's a loss or draw. And right now, I don't have a lot of facts to just disagree with eggplant emoji. I didn't think I'd ever say that. That sentence has never been used before.
Well, I mean, I agree. Cities, they're not consistently holding leads. Obviously, there's been like 18 points dropped from winning positions this season. So they're not holding leads. They're not scoring late in matches a lot of the time. I mean, a little more lately, but still not enough. Obviously, Galaxy, a late goal for a draw. Today, late goals in the first half, I guess, for not even to tie the game up. So it's too little, too late consistently with this team.
So. And if you're following us right here on STL Sports Central, make sure you like, subscribe, hit that bell button. Make sure you're always with us for these post-game shows, of course, presented by our friends at DraftKings and Hot Shots. We'll tell you more about them. But you guys are getting involved before we were even live on the chat, so I want to reward our loyal listeners and get these chats up here. Pekka Pill says Orlando City is just a more high-caliber team. That's all. I had somebody in the chat pointing out it's just a better team. My response to that was the way that this team was able to play with Vancouver, Columbus, and LA. To that point, they're saying the East is much stronger overall. That's a fair point. And Orlando City sitting already on now 10 wins after tonight. So Orlando City is a very good team. Yeah. But I don't want to use that as an excuse because with just as many or fewer starters, they played much better against some of the best teams in the West. And tonight for the first, for huge 20-minute chunks of this game, they didn't show up.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and I think that's a very, very, very accurate assessment of kind of where this team is at right now. It's just consistently there is no consistency.
There you go. I like that. Consistently inconsistent. Yes. One of those cases, an old cliche. Whenever your team is just kind of bad. And that's might be where we're sitting.
And Orlando
right
is
now.
A good team. I'm not going to deny that. They're a very good team.
You always
they
have to
passed
give them credit.
right through St. Louis City.
That's fair. That's fine.
But Critchley even talked about they knew what Orlando was going to do. They were prepared. Yes. Orlando did what they expected. And yet, despite all of that, they came out flat, and they don't exactly know why. Berkey said, I can't really tell you why. But I don't,
And another thing is he mentioned, a lack of confidence. I don't know how you have a lack of confidence after a 5-day break when trainings are apparently going well. The game plan is apparently fine with the way it's been drawn up by the coaching staff. I don't know where the lack of confidence is emanating from. That's now where I'm going to move on to my confusion. Samuel Howe getting involved in the chat as he always is. We love the loyalty here on STL Sports Central and City Central postgame. Aren't we supposed to be a defensive team first? Seems to me 2 goals should be enough to win a game or 2 for a defensive first team.
We're
Samuel
not
Howe,
Melberg ball anymore.
This is not the Melberg era anymore. To the great chagrin of the defense, I guess, because yes, the defense.
What's really funny though? This match was a perfect match for Olaf Melberg's style. Perfect match. Yeah. I truly believe we may have lost every match up until this point if Melberg had stayed, but we probably would have won this one with Melberg just because the style was a perfect match. But that is a stupid thing to even talk about.
It's an insane take. It's dumb to talk about.
It's a stupid thing to talk about.
And all of that being said, I think you're correct. And so they're not a defense first team anymore. You watch these 4 games now under David Critchley. They are not a defense first team before, partially because they don't have the personnel to be a defense first team, because if they're going to get the ball forward and play offensively, if they're going to press people, they do not have the individual defenders throughout the back line, and right now, more importantly, maybe in the defensive midfield. Yeah. To lock teams down and play that way. There is no N'Golo Kante on this team. There is no Sergio Ramos, and there's no one even doing a good MLS impression of that right now.
Right. No, I completely agree. When you're missing Chris Durkin, that hurts. You lose a lot of your work rate. You lose a lot of your defensive reliability and sustainability, because you still have Akil Watts and Morales and JGR and these guys who can throw, some good plays in here and there, and even Vollum getting involved defensively, but it's not necessarily sustainable defense that you get with a Chris Durkin-like profile. And prior to tonight, honestly, buying and shopping for a 6 wasn't really something on my shopping list, but it's going to be tonight, and that's something I'm going to have to look into tomorrow.
Yeah, sure. If you have Chris Durkin, if you have Conrad Vollum for the full run, things are probably a little bit different tonight. The bottom line is you don't. Right. Those people are still not healthy.
But you're not going to have Vollum next year.
You're not going to have Vollum next year. 99%
of the time it's going to be
to buy. 100%. I will not disagree with you there at all.
Right.
Amy Bratton says, can we confidently say we have no hope in being in the playoffs now? Welcome to the conversation.
Rock's been preaching this right to my face, telling me I'm an idiot for having any hope, and we are right on the brink of
it's massaging the wording a little bit, but yeah, essentially.
we're right on the brink for me of hopelessness. Rock's been there for probably 4 or 5 weeks now, so that's where we're at.
The team. I have to sing song it. This team has no hope, no drive, no nothing. There is 7 people in here. This team is just god awful. It's a little bit rough right now. There was a lot of hope. The new coach bump rolled, and then reality came a knocking. And this is just like with Hackworth last year. I was talking to Tom Timmerin. I already mentioned this stat on an earlier broadcast. They got outscored 10-2 in the games after Hackworth's first win, and now what are they looking at? So it would be 7, 8, 9-5, 9-6, something like that. So not as bad, but they're still getting outscored, and they're still not picking up points in the games after that first one under the new coach, and for a lot of the same reasons, which is they're getting exposed on the backside.
Yeah, and this is just comes down to 2 things. It's injuries and roster composition. There's only 2 things that you can blame for a situation like that. If you're going through coaches left and right, there's obviously a more serious problem with different personnel on this team. And it's no secret that the defensive quality on the St. Louis City team has not been good. So you bring in guys like Baumgartel and Kessler. Well, Kessler's been injured. Baumgartel had times where he was injured. Now he's sort of here, and he injured himself again in this match. Then you have your best CDM. He's injured. So, you don't have your defensive players that you're paying for even available. So then you're looking at your depth, and your depth isn't good enough. Obviously, we're seeing that. And so now you're in a problem of you're going to lose every match. And that's where this team's at. You have those 2 issues, injuries and roster composition.
One of the few things that we haven't talked about was the lineup, which was a little bit different today. Obviously, the midfield, we've already talked about that, but they changed the attack as well. Yeah. Cedric Toyshirt joined the attacking 4-man front with Marcel Hartl moving back to the central midfield. That means we had an attack of Toyshirt, Bescher, Pompeu, and Klaus. And really, I think that was part of the defense getting exposed, is just having an offensive player in Hartel as part of your pivot with Watts in the midfield. That led too many times to them getting exposed in the midfield, just so much space for Orlando City to run onto. And at the same time, if you're going to make one of those changes, if you're going to cite, as David Critchley did in the pregame press conference, Cedric Toyshirt's ability to drop into the midfield and support you there, then Cedric Toyshirt, if he's going to be in the lineup, has to get more than 2 touches in the box.
Yeah.
That is a huge problem. If you're not going to get actual offensive production from a forward like Cedric Toyshirt, no matter what he does, I think we can all agree that Cedric Toyshirt compared to some other players, some other midfielders, isn't going to give you the ball progression, the ball retention, the pressability in the midfield that other players on this roster are going to give you. So I'm still a little bit wondering why he decided to go with a team with 5 clearly offensive players, and why specifically he went with that build. I thought that was a little odd, and I'm still a little confused as to what the goal was there against such a talented and good in transition Orlando squad.
Yeah, and one of the first things I said when I saw the 11 up, before actually you got there, Rock, when they passed the papers out, was that when you have a Hartle Watts as your double pivot, you don't have a physical presence in the midfield, because Toyshirt's going to stay high, and he's not defensively like that. He's not that guy defensively. That's not his game. He shouldn't be trying to ask him to do that, would be putting him in the wrong position anyway. So you lack a Durkin or a JGR or anybody, even a Vollum, who can just get in there and be super physical in the midfield. And obviously, when you have a passing team like Orlando, you need a physical body to disrupt that if you're not going to be reading every pass, which obviously isn't happening with the City team right now. So I don't understand the thought process there.
Yeah, I'm a little bit confused as well. Samuel Howe, so are we a counter-attacking team now? Can't watch on Apple TV. I wouldn't say that would be an accurate way to describe this team. I think a pressing and counter-pressing team would be the best way to describe this team. If you want to loop in how most of their offense goes, I would call it a vertical counter-pressing team. That's what would be my best way to describe this team in just a couple words.
Yeah, it's definitely a more direct style than we saw under Melberg, without a doubt.
Direct, vertical, yeah.
But yeah, they want to play with the ball still.
At the same, and that's why we haven't even talked about the third goal, which was just a complete just screw up, and maybe the worst goal, to Will's point, that we've ever seen St. Louis City have. And the conversation around that one probably is frustrating for fans, because it's a lot of, well, we want to do that kind of stuff, but we can't make that kind of mistake. And that's not what you want to hear, but it does get to of how City wants to play, which is the vertical play has been so successful. We've talked about it on the post games. We've talked about it on Boots on the Ground on STL Sports Central. And they want that's been so successful, but they need to have the balance. You need to be able to build out from the back. That opens up the long pass, but also just the ability to play short. They need both sides of things if they're ever going to be a good attacking team. If they're ever going to be able to break down a team like Orlando that can sit back with an extra defender when they have a 3-2 lead. And right now, they can't do that with the long ball, with the short ball. They simply can't do that. And that's a problem going back to September of 2023.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and I want to touch on one thing.
Although Leuven, whenever Leuven's not here, I think we need to almost everything we could say could have a giant asterisk next to it.
That's true. But that's a very good point.
But continue.
Yeah, with this team, Critchley has talked about he wants to either play fast or slow, and whoever's deciding that, it sometimes is Berkey, it's sometimes your Kessler or Baumgartel, but it starts from the back, or whoever wins the ball a lot of the time too in transitional moments. And Critchley had talked about playing slow or fast, but recently they've changed the verbiage to playing fast or slow, because they really want to reiterate fast is a little more what we want to see. But with the City team, I'm not seeing a decisive slow or fast. I'm seeing an unconfident, oh no, I got the ball, now what? And they're looking around. It's so reactive from the City team with the ball much of the time. Now, it's not true every time, and we saw good spurts of this, which created the only good attacking sequences we had in this match and directly led to 2 of the goals, which were confident, direct play. Those were obviously things that they had worked on in training because they knew what to do right away. But a lot of times with this team, there's a lot of unforced turnovers, and not to pick on Akil Watts, who obviously had a terrible night tonight in the first half. So I know he's aware of that, and the team's aware of that. I don't need to harp on that. But he had 7 turnovers, and a lot of those in that first half were simply because when he got the ball, he didn't know what to do with it, or he made some kind of silly mistake that was very easily avoidable, and Critchley would be upset about, in the film room, because it wasn't like a technical mistake necessarily. It was a mental mistake. And those are the most correctable. So that's the thing for me, is it's just that balance of fast or slow, and it's got to be decisive with this team. There is
no decisiveness with this team, and that is something that is right alongside with everything we were just talking about. It's been a problem now for almost 2 years, and they're on their third coach trying to get it figured out. I guess you could argue fourth coach that they're trying to get it figured out, and right now there hasn't been an answer. And so you know what? I'm always looking for answers, but one place I'm usually looking for answers is with my DraftKings Pick 6. Everyone play with the new game with DraftKings Pick 6, and our promo code STL Sports. Listen, we're getting into the season. You're watching we're talking about baseball. You're watching every pitch. You're watching every pass. We're talking about soccer. Bottom line is you're locked into the game, which means you need a way to turn your expertise into a little cash-ola. And the best way to do that is with Pick 6 and DraftKings. And the best way to do it with our promo code STL Sports. You're going to play $5. You're going to get 10 more plays. They're going to give you $50 to keep on playing. Play $5, get $50, which means you got 10 more plays with the Pick 6. And it's so easy. You just select 2 players from a game. They just got to be on different teams, and you're going to go higher or lower. More hits, runs, or an RBI for Nolan Arenado or Nolan Gorman, what have you. You take some of those, you combine them all around. Heck, the Cubs and Cardinals got another game tomorrow. I keep rolling with Pete Crow Armstrong because as much as I hate it, he keeps getting hits for the Cubs. So you combine Pete Crow Armstrong with one of the Cardinals hitters who keeps on hitting it. I would go with a lefty like Alec Burleson or Nolan Gorman, although not tonight because the Cardinals stunk. Bottom line is you just put 2 together and you're starting making your pick 2. You can make all the way up to 6 selections, and you're just raising your odds to win and raising the amount you're going to win off your original wager every time you add to your pick 6. That is DraftKings Pick 6, promo code STL Sports. Play $5 and get $50 when you play.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
And this is the City Central postgame. Not only our friends DraftKings Sportsbook, but also, of course, Hot Shots Sports Bar and Grill, home of STL sports fans since 1990. They're celebrating 35 years of incredible drinks, food, and service. Check them out right now. A great place to watch a St. Louis City game, because even if they go down 2-0 early in the game, you still have darts.
It's too early, Rock. It's too early.
You got darts, you got different games to play, and of course you have the incredible food, drinks, and atmosphere at every Hot Shots location. And speaking of every Hot Shots location, they are all around town. They're even branching out outside of St. Louis. So if you don't live in St. Louis, you can still enjoy Hot Shots. But if you're in St. Louis, check out hotshotsnet.com and get to one of those locations. I guarantee they're close enough for you to drive right over every time City's playing and have a great old time watching it. Some final thoughts in this game before we wrap up the City Central postgame, Will?
Yeah, the most important thing to note is that the playoff hopes are absolutely diminishing.
There we go.
And
Great
the most
job.
important thing
Love it.
this season is the summer transfer window, which opens on July 24th. That is 30 days from now. We are close. It's coming, and I promise you there's going to be a lot of news. I'm sure rumors could start circling as early as this coming week. So, and by this coming week, I mean next week, maybe even this week. I doubt it, but next week for sure, we'll probably start hearing things. So pay attention. Follow Rock and I on social media. Follow STL Sports Central on social media so you don't miss out on any of that kind of information, because there is going to be all sorts of drama. We're not just talking City losses anymore. We're talking about the future, because obviously this season, not what we want to talk about.
Yep, and we will continue with our coverage. Tomorrow, City will have a presser and availability as we try to rebound from whatever it was we saw today. On Friday, we have boots on the ground. We're going to be doing things a little bit differently, because with these midweek games, with a quick turnaround into the weekend game, it's harder for us to do all the boots on the ground stuff. But we will be live and on the Lou Information Station like we always are from 3 to 4 p.m. on Friday. And we will also have a podcast with Boots on the Ground coming out later. So make sure you follow me, Rocchio at Rock STL, ROCC Where can they follow you, Will?
Will Bratton STL on X and STL City FC Views on Instagram.
There you go. And make sure you're also following STL Sports Central on X, on Instagram, and of course right here on YouTube. Like, subscribe, hit that bell button. Make sure you're live with us every time we go live after a City game right here on City Central Postgame. Whenever we go live with Boots on the Ground, our weekly St. Louis City and Soccer podcast, and all other events in St. Louis. If it's a Cards game, we're talking Cardinals even after an 8-0 loss. I know they did a great job with Brendan and Ethan handling that post game today. And we are wrapping up things from the bowels of Energizer Park. That has been Will Bratton. I'm Matthew Rocchio, and this has been the City Central post game on STL Sports Central.